911, what's location of your emergency?
It appears that we have had an explosion in this area.
What's going on? Hold on 1 second.
There was a loud boom, a very violent boom, which shook the house.
Y'all getting calls about the flying object? About the flying object? Yeah, blowing up. Well, we have one that's thinking it's possibly a meteor.
I realized immediately that something was not right.
Repeat, we're being told that something did explode.
Apparently it was a jet airplane.
It was a jet airplane?
Yes.
It is now 10 o'clock here on the East Coast. You're watching the CBS News special report.
See two large vapor trails.
The vapor trail was coming from the west to the east, across the sky.
I live on Shuttle and Bowie, and something just crashed over the sky and shook the ground.
At first, I thought we were under attack.
This material was coming down almost like rain.
Something fell out of the sky. When? It looked like a little piece of metal. Okay, you're telling me a piece of metal fell out of the sky?
I'm not sure, but I think I just found part of an airplane.
At that time, they started getting major reports coming in, pieces falling.
The piece fell in the back part of our parking lot. The impact from that piece blew open the back doors to the bank.
I saw more and more debris, not only on the side of the road, but in the roadway.
The feeling of impending doom is kind of what I felt.
We've got rescue en route.
I saw the officer in the parking lot. He looked at me and he said, "Go upstairs and see if the shuttle has landed."
The Space Shuttle Columbia had 7 astronauts on board, including 6 Americans and 1 Israeli.
Efforts to recover debris continue. And Ilan Ramon, first Israeli to fly in space, was on board this mission. People in the field are working diligently.
NASA is going west to expand the search for shuttle debris.
You'd be surprised at the things that actually made it to the ground that day.
Sometimes you wonder if you were born and raised towards a certain point to do a certain thing. Just the fact that I became a document examiner, that I'm an English speaker as well as a Hebrew speaker, all these things helped in deciphering what was written on those pages.
The condition of the paper was extremely fragile.
Along with the pages, we got a pile of fragments that we had to try and place. Basically, I just used a fine pair of tweezers, and I took every fragment and tried every permutation and combination to see where it had come from. When I unfolded this tiny little piece of paper over here, I saw that what we have written here is ignition of engines, 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff. And this is where Ilan Ramon is talking about the liftoff of the space shuttle. The personal diary that Ilan Ramon wrote in space, the actual writing could be seen black and white.
He thought not about himself only, he thought about humanity, and mostly as a representative of the Jewish people. I think this is one of the most important messages that he carried with him.
He wanted to bring in that history, because without knowing your past, you have no future. And to have a future, you have to know your past.
February 1st, the final day of Colombia, in a very unbelievable manner, closed another circle. Ilan Ramon didn't represent just Ilan. As an Israeli who is the son of a Holocaust survivor, it was important to him and important to us to carry with him items which tell about a period which was so formative to who we are as Israelis. And Ilan understood this, that he carries with him the payload of history.
Ilan's mom used to play the piano before the Holocaust. And when she came to Israel, that was her way to get out of those horrible experiences. And she was a piano teacher in Israel. She always said that Ilan was the most talented student that she had, but unfortunately he wanted to play soccer.
I was the eldest boy. I was born 5 years after my mother left Auschwitz. All our life it was there. My father came to Israel before the Second World War started in 1936. And they met in a kibbutz. And they fell in love. And I have many letters, love letters that my mother sent to my father. Ilan was very quiet, and he used to stay at his room. And I had to take care of him, because he was my youngest brother.
הוא היה בחור טוב. הוא היה בחור שמאוד אהבתי אותו. היינו בקשר טוב מאוד, אחד עם השני. אבל הוא לא היה קל דעת עם בנות. כלומר, הוא לא היה... בנות התעניינו בו, כי הוא היה גם מוכשר וגם יפה, ולכן מורים אהבו אותו. וזאת הסיבה והוא גם הצליח, וזאת הייתה הסיבה שתמיד ידעתי שכדאי ממנו להעתיק את השיעורי בית.
But he was very accomplished person. In every way, as a student, as a son that really makes his parents so proud, and then in the Air Force. The first time I came to Ilan's house, he opened the door holding a broom in his hand, trying to make a little bit of order in this messy place. And here I see a pilot cleaning the house for me, I guess. And in the angle of the room, I see a piano. So I said, a pilot? Somebody that cares about where he lives or care enough about me to clean the house. And an artist is something, it's a great combination that I must get to know.
We met in August 1972 after we joined the Air Force.
Unlike most other guys, he was what we call WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get.
Ilan was something special that you just have to look at him and say, I would like to be his friend.
When he was a student pilot, he had to bail out, and I think he broke a leg.
They got a malfunction in the controls, and they have to leave the airplane. No ejection seat. You just open the canopy, and you jump out, and usually you hit the tail of the airplane. Ilan Ramon wasn't the stereotype of a fighter pilot, even though he was a very good fighter pilot. But his aggressiveness was in a way restrained. His ambitions were very hidden.
It is better to be quiet on the ground and fighter in the air. Not all of us can do it.
He never fought for promotion. He never fought for becoming a commander or get a position. But it's happened to him because he was an excellent pilot and excellent character.
Anything you showed him, he did it right away exactly as he was shown. And therefore, he's a Phantom. It's a difficult airplane to control. And within a month, he was an ace.
The aftershock is beginning to mount in the wake of Israel bombing a nuclear plant in Iraq.
We shall defend our people with all the means at our disposal.
We navigate at low level.
Officials here say Iraq was 3 years away from a nuclear bomb.
There was 1 or 2 missiles that launched from Ilan. For a few seconds, he didn't answer.
Military sources here say it was one of the most complex operations ever carried out by the Israeli Air Force.
I called Camp David, got the president on the phone, and informed him that the reactor site had been taken out by the Israeli aircraft. He said, "You know what?" I said, "What's that, Mr. President?" He said, "Boys will be boys."
Ilan was a planner of the mission. He was the one who calculated all the performance of the airplane, of the armament.
He actually planned the route itself. And according to operations research, either 1 or 2 airplanes would be hit.
Everyone who knows the calculus of possibility to be hit on such a sortie knows that number 8 is the most dangerous position.
One has to be number 8. I mean, the last one in the second formation. So it was Ilan.
We thought that both of us would get hit.
So the whole mission was like, you are going and you never know if you come back.
Ilan was single at that time. We was laughing about that he is single and he can take more risk.
The fact that everybody came back was a big surprise for us.
The United States government condemns the reported Israeli airstrike on the Iraq nuclear facility.
The United States government was completely surprised by this attack. And it demonstrated to the world that Israel was capable of performing unbelievable feats.
A nuclear capability in the hands of Saddam Hussein at the time put the Jews in Israel in danger which is parallel to the one we suffered in the Holocaust.
The Chief of Staff told us that this mission is so important to prevent another Holocaust.
I distinctly remember the briefing and the morning of the mission. I recalled my grandfather, my aunt in Lithuania were killed by the Nazis, and that I'm flying for them. And if I don't come back, it's worthwhile. And I think Ilan felt the same with his own life story.
ויש בזה אבסורד גדול מאוד, שאני מתאר לעצמי, אני לא יודע אם כל אחד שאל את עצמו, אבל לפחות אני שאלתי את עצמי, למה כל אחד רוצה אולי למות?
In his diaries, he talked about the dilemmas, but he felt the main goal or the vision was to prevent another Holocaust.
It so happened that I met Colonel Ramon when he was still a cadet at the Air Force. He came to me. I was looking for young officers that have the potential of becoming future leaders.
The Israeli astronaut and the payload of Israeli instruments will fly on a space shuttle mission next year.
Ilan came very late after a long day at work, and he said, Rona, I need to talk to you. I said, okay. That they asked me to be an astronaut. So what?
What happened to Ilan, it's interesting. People didn't think whether he can be a squadron commander. He was a very good squadron commander. People wasn't sure that he can become head of the operational requirement department, and he did this job wonderful. And then when they come to pick the astronaut, I think nobody even hesitates that he will do it good enough, well enough. But he did it even better. He did it excellent.
I said to him, you know, you're a lucky bastard. You're gonna do it, and it's gonna be great. And we're all proud of you.
So I thought it could be a very interesting adventure. And actually that's what it was, a very interesting and uplifting adventure. We arrived to Houston in mid-June, and it was really totally different than what we expected. It took us a while to get organized.
I'm known as IR, which is Ilan Ramon. I'm from Israel. I'm a payload specialist, number 7.
I remember Ilan when he first arrived with his ASCAN training. You know, that was back when I was an instructor at the time. I noticed Ilan very early on in his training, very focused on what was being taught, but very relaxed. And he always asked really good questions kind of in between.
We hadn't worked with Israeli payload specialists before, and you got to be careful. You know, you want to do your best with first impressions.
It's a 4-tier sleep station, and it's designed for a multi-shift or at least a dual-shift flight. ולא חושבים עוד על הדברים האקזוטיים שכל אחד ששומע טיסה לחלל, אז הוא מיד חושב עליהם. זה עוד מאוד רחוק מאיתנו. תתפלא, אבל חושבים על דברים מאוד פרוזאיים.
This is a guy with tremendous amount of experience as a F-16 fighter pilot. You know, he had kind of seen it all. So there wasn't too much that would get under his skin and really bother him, but also incredibly humble about that.
Get into position, jump out. Hands and legs are all together like a ball.
2, 3.
We are, I think, 36 or 37 days to launch.
and it's starting to get exciting.
Ilan Ramon was small of physical stature, but when he moved into a room, everybody paid attention. He had that certain twinkle in his eyes, that certain gait, that he made people notice. We were introduced when our experiment was chosen to be the Israeli experiment on the shuttle. There were many simulations, which means an international activity. We were working in Israel, and he was working in Houston. I took it on as a 2-year project for my last 2 years as a full professor. All of us wanted to work with him after 5 minutes, and we became one big family, really.
The crew of the Colombia was really unique by their relationship because they all came to learn and to appreciate each other for who they were.
David was described by his friends as a Renaissance man. David did many things, and he did them all well. He was a doctor, he was a pilot, he was an astronaut, and soon to be, most likely, a filmmaker.
Here I am, working hard. That's why I was...
It's a rare sight. His project was to make a documentary about the 107 crew. What's in the tapes, the story, was the personality of his family, which was his crew.
Lon, what are you making there?
I'm trying to light it.
The National Outdoor Leadership School uses wilderness camping type endeavors as a framework to build leadership and followership skills. It was a chance for them to get away from it all and be part of this unified group effort. And it was where they really learned to work together as a team.
Ilan, are you hungry? Oh, yeah.
It's a real stretch of your abilities to go on a National Outdoor Leadership School course. And all of them had different levels of anxiety in what they would meet when they were in the high altitudes of Wyoming.
Rolling. Quiet on the set. Action. We're here in the Wind River Mountains with the crew of STS-107.
Brought to you by the National Outdoor Leadership School.
Well, Laurel, are you ready?
Dave, my palms are sweaty, my knees are weak. I'm ready for an outdoor adventure.
They're each very accomplished individuals, and it's incredible how diverse their backgrounds are.
Yeah, we're almost there. Look at they need 2 more hours.
You can't get people from a much more diverse background, but yet they were united in this common purpose.
Well, 107!
Way to go, Rick!
Next stop, over the Earth's atmosphere.
That's right.
After they came back from that trip, they were all very different. And what happened during that trip was a bond that nobody could take away from them. And I noticed a group that left very cohesive, but came back very connected as a family.
Kifak, hey! Kifak, hey! Kifak, hey! Hey! Hey!
In spite of the differences in their culture, in spite of the difference in their religious, they made a step beyond the little differences in life. The difference falls apart when you have such a higher vision or higher mission to do for all humankind.
Yeah, I got y'all in there, 107.
Since the launch of Colombia was postponed year after year, we ran out of budget to keep Ilan in the program. So, by joking, I told him that he must become back because there is no money left. And then he answered me. He said, first of all, you cannot take me apart from the Colombia team. I am part of a team that will never let me go. Did he say, Amos, we served together more than 20 years. I was belonging to the Israeli Air Force. I represent the Israeli Air Force, but I am now more than that. I am the representative of all the people of Israel, the state of Israel and the Jewish people all around the world. And they are all waiting for me to go up for them to the space. So it is not a matter of budget. When he told me that, I really understand that, you know, the shy, childish fighter pilot suddenly become a leader, suddenly become somebody who has vision and perspective that I never recognized before.
We wanted to expose our friends that came from different cultures to our cultures. In Hanukkah, it was so beautiful because we would invite them to celebrate Hanukkah, and they would invite us to celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it was a mix of all the cultures, which was a beautiful experience for everyone.
I remember one night, Ilan chose to tell us many stories that were at the time not even known within most of Israel, of some of the missions that he had flown. And the pride and the amazing ability that that man had was felt by everybody in the room, and we felt that he was passing on to us something so much bigger than himself.
Sweet husband, Commander Colombia. Right, and the world's first Israeli astronaut.
Rick was a wonderful person. He was very professional in his job in being a commander, but he, much more than that, he had a great soul, and he was a very religious person.
To become friends with someone that was from Israel was a giant highlight of his life.
Being the first Israeli, that touched the whole crew as far as that elevated the significance of the flight, not only for Ilan, but for everybody.
I had flown already, and so I was telling Ilan what it's like to fly. I was describing what Israel looks like from space, and all the emotions that Ilan had about Israel started coming out. And just to give you an idea, I think we started at midnight with this, and we probably finished at 2 or 3 in the morning.
It was very unique to see how things evolved in him. And once he realized that he's not only representing Israel, he's representing all the Jewish people. I can definitely say that everything that he took with him to space was thought about again and again, and the list changed from the moment we left Israel until the moment he had to pack everything and to take with him to space.
One of the things about spaceflight is we only have photos and video to bring back. And so there's always some kind of remoteness between everybody else and everything that's happening up there.
It was such an ultimate experience. It's such an amazing experience to feel. Each second feels like a minute. Each minute feels like an hour. And it feels like that because there's so much imprinted on your memory in such a short period of time that you can't believe only a second went by. It's the ultimate human experience. You can't share that with the people you love. You have great stories to tell when you come back, but you can't identify exactly how it really feels. And so by taking up small items, you're bridging that huge gap a very tiny bit. It becomes very important.
It's something that all of us pay a lot of attention to and are very careful about. And of course, in his case, it was magnified 100 times as far as the significance of each thing that he brought with him.
The story of the things he took with him were just a manifestation of his empowerment as a person and as a Jew being able to look at himself from the outside.
And the first thing that he brought out was this picture that Peter Gintz had done. And he was planning to fly with this picture.
שזהו ציור של כדור הארץ, איך הוא נראה מהירח בדמיון של פטר גינץ, ילד שצייר את הציור הזה כשהוא היה בן 14 בערך, במחנה טרזנשטט, וככה הוא ראה בדמיונו מהגטו איך לדעתו נראה כדור הארץ מהירח. אתם רואים פה את ההרים האלה, ככה הוא חשב שהירח נראה. אז הציור הזה יהיה איתי בחלל.
We talked about that photo for a long time and basically tried to transplant ourselves into the mind of that child who was living through that hell and how he could see hope through a sketch like that.
אז גם זה יהיה איתי בחלל.
He realized the important part of his Holocaust background as a son of a survivor. We saw it as kind of a miracle that he was born to a woman that wasn't supposed to be alive. And he came to work on a mission that symbolized our future, and it was something that he really wanted to emphasize.
Ilan came to visit me many times. One time after dinner, we went to my office, to my study, and while we were talking, his eye just moved and fell on a little ark that was standing on top of my bookshelves. And he stopped, he said, "Well, what's that doing here?" And I told him the story about the little Torah and how it got into this ark. And he was totally quiet while I told the story.
Hitler struck at them, again without warning.
German invasion of the Netherlands started May 9th and 10th, 1940, and the Nazis were able to take over pretty quickly.
The Germans paraded down the street, and that was the first time I saw an adult man cry. I suddenly heard my father make a noise, and we were looking out of the window, and he was crying. I had never seen a man or my father cry. I was 8 years old.
The Nazis were meticulous in confiscating Jewish property, their homes, their apartments, as well as their personal belongings.
They took away my father's companies. There was a rule that Jews couldn't have silver or gold. We were allowed to keep one spoon, one fork, one knife, one teaspoon, not of silver or gold.
The restrictions that the Nazis placed were designed to take the Jews out of Dutch life.
We couldn't go into stores anymore. They had signs at the parks, no dogs or Jews.
They were no longer able to go to the same schools, so they destroyed their social environment, the political environment, their cultural environment. Every aspect of their life had been changed. They were no longer Dutch citizens for all intents and purposes. They were Jews.
My father knew already that something was coming. It was German and Dutch police. And then we were put on the cattle train. Doors were locked. I didn't really look very much at people because I was scared. I saw all these soldiers and dogs and things, and it didn't look like something friendly to me. People kept coming through. People I knew, friends of mine, family, acquaintance of my parents, they all came through. We said hello, we said goodbye.
Depending upon the whim of the Nazis at that day, it could have meant death. It was the luck of the draw.
And we were told that we would be separated from our parents. My father took me aside and said, "Well, I want you to understand one thing. From the time that we are separated, you're not just your brother's brother, but his father and mother too." And we came to Bergen-Belsen, the doors opened, the dogs again, the guards again. We were separated into units that would fill a barrack, two to a bunk. Above you and below you, people were sleeping and talking, and usually it was kind of dark because candles were only used when people needed them. So it was like living in a cave.
Bergen-Belsen in general was considered to be one of the filthiest camps in the whole system. People died of typhus, typhoid, tuberculosis. They died of starvation.
One of the people in the barrack was a Rabbi Simon Dasberg from Groningen in Amsterdam. He did many things in the camp. He was caught, for instance, at the crematoria saying prayers for the dead and punished several times.
We were living in Groningen. It's a town in the Netherlands. And my father was chief rabbi there. He was not only very busy in the synagogue, but he was also very involved with everything in Jewish life.
He continued being the rabbi of the people in the camp by his own choice. And that was quite a decision to make.
עד שהוא נחלש. כי הגרמנים גם אמרו לו להוריד את הזקן, כי הוא היה רב עם זקן, והוא לא הסכים. והם לא אהבו את התשובה הזאת.
His whole appearance made them angry.
He found out that I was going on 13. And one day he came to me and said, "You're going on 13, do you want to become a bar mitzvah boy?" I said, "Yes, but how?" He said, "Well, I'm going to teach you if you're willing."
A bar mitzvah ceremony is the event, is the day that a child reaches the age of 13 and becomes part of the Jewish community as a man.
Every morning at 4 o'clock, he woke me up and took me down to the table, opened up a little Torah scroll, and we used to study from it. He smuggled it into the camp and kept it with him, hidden. One morning, he said, "Well, the time has come." He had arranged everything. All the windows were shut off with blankets. There was a blanket on the table and the Torah scroll open waiting for me. A bunch of people were waiting there too, and he conducted a service, a real service. And when I almost got into the stage where I should read, there was a sudden knock on the door. Everybody froze. The rabbi went to the door and opened it, and there was my mother. It turned out that the rabbi found out where my mother was, and so they'd smuggled my mother from camp to camp. I ran up to her, and we were all crying, and so of course. I went back to the table, I read my Torah portion, I spoke my bar mitzvah speech. After a ceremony was completed, somebody gave me one little cube of chocolate. The rabbi took me aside and said, "Here's this little Torah from which you read. I want you to take it." I told him, how can I take a Torah? I'm a little boy. Little boys don't take Torahs. He said, "Well, just promise me one thing. I am probably not going to come out of here alive. That is why I want you to have this. You must promise me that you will tell the story. What happened here?" And he pressed this box into my hands, and I looked at him and he said, "Okay, I promise."
My father died 2 days after my mother, on the 24th of February, 1945. He had no strength anymore.
Here, over an acre of ground, lay dead and dying people. You could not see which was which. This day at Belsen was the most horrible of my life.
Ilan got up and paced the room back and forth, and he said, "Yoya, I must tell you something. My mother and grandmother are graduates of Auschwitz."
When he came back home, he said, "Rona, I saw something that really overwhelmed me." And then he told me about the little Torah that he saw at Yoya's home. And I asked him, "So what do you think to do with it?" He said, "I don't know, I need some time with it. But I'm thinking of taking it with me, but I'm afraid even to ask."
Our countdown for launch of Space Shuttle Columbia on mission STS-107 is continuing on schedule this morning.
There's our helicopter.
everybody's got one of these patches on it and go. Here we go, John. All right, we're set. There it is.
Okay, everybody on? Good to go.
Our pride, our hope, many hopes were accompanying him when he took off.
I got it. Boarding bus.
LPS, go. Houston flight.
Houston flight is go.
Pilot.
15 seconds. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. We have a go. Main engine start. 3, 2, 1. We have booster ignition and liftoff of Space Shuttle Columbia with a multitude of national and international space research experiments.
Good morning, Houston. It's great to be awake, and it's great to be here in space.
It's alive. There it is.
We, the 107 crew, have to thank very much Dave Brown for his magnificent work of the video and photo of our whole mission.
Here we have Ilan, Ramon, working on VDEX.
I suggested to NASA that this experiment be flown at the time of maximum dust in the atmosphere.
Radiometric cameras outside in the payload bay are measuring the reflection off of dust that has a huge impact on weather patterns across the planet.
I sent a song to each of the astronauts every night, and the astronauts answered me. They read me a song from space.
This is a poem for Yo-Ya. Yo-Ya Joseph, our friend on the ground, sends us daily poems as we go round and round. His warm, friendly eyes make us all realize what a wonderful friend we have found. And some more, one sentence in Hebrew for Yo-Ya. כל הכבוד, ואני גאה בכם. כל טוב, ונתראה אחרי נחיתה.
We've got a great picture here of Egypt and the Sinai Peninsula, and up at the upper left part of the screen, Israel. We've zoomed into Israel here, where our world-famous astronaut Ilan Ramon is from.
Jerusalem, this is Houston. Please call Columbia for a voice check.
I would like to invite you to visit us here. I can assure you that you will find yourself among friends.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate the invitation.
Ilan said, I thought about this very much. I would like to ask you to give me this little Torah to take to space.
ועכשיו אולי אני אדבר טיפה על... אני אראה מוצג אחד שקיבלתי רשות מיוחדת. אנחנו לא, בדרך כלל לא רשאים להראות, אבל המוצג הזה אני חושב הוא מוצג מאוד מאוד מרגש. You realize the potential of this wonderful story of the Torah. אני מתרגש שאני מחזיק אותו בידיי, וזהו ספר תורה קטן כמו שאתם רואים, שלפני בערך 60 שנה ילד קטן במחנה ההשמדה ברגן בלזן קיבל אותו מהרב של אמסטרדם, שלימד אותו לקראת הבר מצווה.
There was Ilan. There we saw him holding the Torah scroll. For a minute, it escaped from his hand and kind of floated, and he caught it.
אני חשבתי שזה דרישת שלום. מן השמיים. סימן חיים. מן העבר.
I see it as a sort of a rising of the death of my father. He came alive again.
אז זה חוט וחבל מקשר מאוד מאוד מרגש, והוא כאן איתי בחלל. יויה נתן לי אותו, ואני מאוד מאוד מודה ליויה, ומאוד מתרגש לאחוז אותו פה בחלל, ואני חושב שזה מייצג יותר מכל את היכולת של העם היהודי לשרוד למרות כל דבר.
He thought he would show it to the world as a symbol of how a person can go from the depth of hell to the heights of space. I had finally fulfilled my promise to Rabbi Simon Dasberg in a way which I would never have thought it would be possible.
I think it was the most important thing for Ilan to show the world and to be in a position to expose this amazing story of surviving.
There are two dimensions. There is a sky and there is a heaven. The sky is a matter of height. A heaven is a matter of depth. Here is a combination of penetrating the skies and demonstrating the values, the heaven. And I think Colonel Ramon, who has had an eye for the depth, really created an unforgettable drama.
Everything looked good to you? Control and rates and everything is nominal, right?
Control's been stable through the rolls that we've done so far flight. We have good trims. I don't see anything out of the ordinary.
Okay.
Rick, we're ready for Ops 304. Here it comes.
Looks good.
Casey, will you put this on the back of your seat?
Yes, I got it. I don't have my gloves on, yes. Oh, 1 minute.
Okay, no rush. Yep, plenty of time.
Noel, do you need help?
That might be some plasma now. This is amazing. It's really getting really bright out there. Yep.
You only want the camera back, right?
I do not want the camera back.
Okay.
Right, we're checking that. We got the flight control tower on. We're working through the rest of it as well. Thanks.
The tire pressure on left outboard and left inboard, both tires.
And Columbia, Houston, we see your tire pressure messages, and we did not copy
Is it
your last.
instrumentation, Max?
Flight Max, those are also off.
Roger.
No onboard system config changes right before we lost data.
That's correct, flight. All look good.
Columbia, Houston, comm check.
Fido, when are you expecting tracking?
1 minute to go, flight.
Columbia, Houston, UHF comm check.
Fido, do you have any tracking?
No, sir. Rescue Coordination Center is mobilizing to that area, and they're seeing what they can do to help us.
Copy.
Columbia came to rest that day here in Sabine County.
President Bush was quick to express the nation's grief.
The Columbia is lost. On board was a crew of 7.
The world lost 7 heroes. We lost 7 family members. We felt like it was our responsibility to find the astronauts so that they might return home to their family. Their mission really became our mission.
All these people came from everywhere. They volunteered their time to come help us search.
On day 12, we feel like that was accomplished because at that time we knew that all of the astronauts had been found.
Just the various amounts of stories and things that came out through the pages, it definitely got me thinking. Be proud of what you are. Know who you are. Know where you come from. Know that it's important to know where you come from.
With your permission, Mr. Prime Minister, first of all, I would like to thank you for receiving this group, the families of the astronauts of STS-107 to Colombia.
When I spoke to Colonel Ramon and to Commander Husband and invited them all to visit Israel as our guests once their mission was completed. And now you are enabling me to fulfill my pledge, if only symbolically.
Ilan fulfilled his mission. His last mission was to open the hearts of people.
These people who survive by continuing with education, with cultural activities, religious activities, this is the real virtue, this is the real heroism.
Ilan felt so strongly that he was representing not just himself, but the Jewish people.
There's a theme that has run through so many different aspects of the entire STS-107 story. And that theme is the continuation of life. It's that desire for a better day, that desire for a future. It's not giving up. And that spirit was something all of us felt very profound to carry the legacy.
And we learned that there is another little miniature Torah. The Torah belonged to Henry Finisher, which was also a professor for physics, and has a similar story about being in the Holocaust.
It's our unique and different ties to Ilan Ramon that brings us together here. And our connection through this little Torah is a hopeful promise for a new beginning and a shining example of respect between cultures and religions.
And I thought that it could be some kind of a closure for me. And to ask to send this Torah with Steve, which is but such a good friend.
When Rona asked me to fly the sister Torah in space from a different child, the same concentration camp, there was no question that I wouldn't do it for her. It was important to me to do that. In addition, it was perhaps even more important for me to finish what Ilan started as a friend.
And here come our 6-member STS-115 flight crew, leaving the suit-up room.
I picture it in the pocket of a child, hanging onto it with hope, but it goes from the depths of despair to the heights of hope.
Atlantis OTC, it's been a long road, but your patience is about to be rewarded. It's time to fly.
There's something deeper than we think in us being what we are, in him being what he was and what he represented. And it's not only that a human being can carry a scroll, but a scroll can carry the human being.
Remade engines up and burning. 2, 1, and liftoff of Space Shuttle Atlantis.